The reality is that, you may see more arguments with me and Bria, just to
Okay.
be clear. Bria is like the little sister I never asked for. And so I think part of part of it is that the reality is I love Bria. Sometimes it gets tricky because it may not look like it all the time, right? But I
Hmm.
love Bria. Like, I think Bria is like, she packs a big punch, right? Like, and sometimes it can be a lot. I'm also very self-aware of my reactions, my actions, how I speak to people. And sometimes I don't think Bria is.
Mm.
And I think coming from someone who is admittedly a decade older than her and is very self-aware, it's difficult for me sometimes, truly. And I've addressed this to Bria very directly. That gets very difficult for me, right? Because everything to me is not all about fun and drinking. Yeah, that's a great dynamic, and we should always play that out. And there's also a moment of like, what does respect look like? How do we speak to each other? How do you not center yourself in a comment that's obviously about other people? And I think for me, I struggle with her a little bit there. And at the same time, acknowledging that I really do think Bria is a lot of fun and really
Hmm.
has a good spirit. And so I think those arguments are just right. They're just big when they're big, but when we're good, we're good.
I want to gab. Okay, today we're gabbing with Nick Arrington and Preston Mitchum, two of the stars of Summer House, Martha's Vineyard, season two of which premieres this Sunday on Bravo. Nick and Preston, I'm so excited for people to see this excellent premiere, to continue to get with it on this amazing show. How are you guys feeling at premiere week?
Feeling good. Yeah, feeling good. I mean, we can't turn back now. So so we're here regardless.
The train has left the station.
Yes.
The
We're just
train has left the
on
station.
board.
Right. And so season two filmed pretty close to when season one aired. So there wasn't that much time for you guys to kind of like digest that aspect of this whole experience. How did the closeness of those two things like affect the summer that we're going to see play out?
Honestly, it feels like we never left,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And quiet as it's kept, I'm ready to get back to the
Yeah,
vineyard.
honestly.
I
Yeah.
know it's just such a beautiful place, and time stops for nobody, and time for us just moves so rapidly because so much was thrown at us all at once. And your experience may have been a little different than mine because you were also at BravoCon. So it was like,
Yeah.
Right.
when does it end? It doesn't. It's life now.
Yeah, no, it really is just like succession, right? And to be honest, I'm just happy to be here. I know I keep saying this a lot, like living in this moment and spirit of gratitude, but the reality is my life and our life didn't have to be this way. And the powers that be made it so that it is, and it doesn't make it easy. But it does make you, I think, just kind of sit with it and be a little bit more gracious about it, no matter how like chaotic these moments are. I would choose this chaos over many other chaotic moments in life. So I'm just grateful to be here, truly.
That's a great way of looking at it. And it must also put the smaller points of conflict or smaller tensions into perspective because you're like, wait a second,
Mhm.
we have this whole platform now.
Yeah, yeah. But it's also interesting because again, it also doesn't make those moments easier.
Right.
Because they're real, right? And just
Yeah.
like you will with your friends, you'll get in arguments with your friends, and hopefully you'll come back after some conflict has been resolved, or if the conflict has been resolved. So it doesn't make it easier, but it does, to your point, put things into perspective. Like, this is actually probably not that big of a deal.
Mm.
It probably feels that way in the moment because it's the pressure cooker environment, but
Mm.
let's be for real and just drink.
Right. It's like it's like the group chat coming to life, right?
Mhm.
So let's say
It's
Preston
a
and I
good
have an
way.
argument, right? We could solve it, squash it, whatever. But now eight other people have an opinion about the same argument. Now we have to hear their opinion. I was like, wait a
There we
minute, this
go.
has nothing to do with y'all. You
There we
know?
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Preston used up all of my shampoo. That's
No.
it. That's all we're talking about here.
That's
But when you add other people into it, but it also makes it funny.
hmm
Yeah.
And you learn something as well because you get someone else's perspective.
Right. Well, it's
So
interesting because in this first episode, it feels like any tension that we're seeing play out is kind of based off of things that happened between summers of like, you didn't invite me to this event or I was not in that group chat or whatever. And so, I mean, and that feels like you just said, that feels like the group chat come to life. That feels just like a regular friend group kind of parsing through different things. Like we all deal with that kind of stuff.
we do, right? I mean, the reality is when you have a big like let's say 10 friends, which is what we have, right? There are going to be certain pockets of those friendships that are closer than others. But the reality is you still can feel like you are obligated to be invited to or entitled to be invited to certain places, even when those friendships may not be as close. And I think anyone can relate to that, right?
Yeah.
Especially think our audience can, because I know I see these conversations playing out on Twitter around like invitations or brunches or different things that we know that we're used to. So hopefully the audience will really be like, you know what? That's been me before. I
I
can't
get
lie.
it.
Like
Right.
hashtag no invite. People have done that. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like we're in the house, we do everything together.
Mhm.
So you would have that level of expectation when we go to our respective homes where we actually live.
Mhm.
I mean, even like let's say when you guys go to the grocery store, I feel kind of left out if I'm still sat in the kitchen. It's like, well, I want to go to the grocery store too. I don't even need to buy groceries,
No,
right? I just want to go.
you just want to be along for the ride. Exactly. Yeah.
Right,
And
right.
I don't
and
want to
I
miss
feel
anything.
I feel like another thing that comes with again, a general friend group, and Preston, I think that you and Jordan, I think are maybe like the most overt example of this, which is like you met through another friend basically, and you've become really close. Like your friendship is a very prominent friendship in this group. And Jordan and Jasmine have kind of gone the opposite way, and they've kind of gotten less close. And we see that conversation start to happen in this premiere episode. What are your thoughts on that situation? Obviously, we know Jordan's perspective and we know Jasmine's perspective, and they don't necessarily align. So I'm curious, as a good friend of Jordan, as a friend to both, what's your perspective on what's going on between them?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a mixture of feelings there, right? I think on some instance, I mean, because I'm always gonna be honest, right? I do tend to see Jordan's side a little bit more. And it's not even because some of it maybe because we're close and I've just heard
Hmm.
her perspective a little bit more. Some of it is maybe because I also understand their perspective because, of friendship with Jasmine and Silas. And so I do understand a little bit more like the people that you have a friendship with who you no longer see acting the way you're used to them acting, you
Right.
can retreat a little bit because it's could be unscary because you may not trust the person that you're seeing. In some instances, may not know the person that you're seeing, even though they may be figuring themselves out too. Ultimately, though, I just really pray they get back to their friendship because, in my opinion, they really miss each other. They truly love each other, and there's just like an impasse.
Hmm.
And I think with friendships, there are some impasses that happen that you can like avoid and kind of figure it out. And there are some impasses that actually looks like the end of a friendship. I just pray that this is not the latter.
For sure. And this is for both of you. I mean, a big difference from last summer to this summer is that Silas is not there. He was deployed. And, I guess from a viewer's perspective, it's sort of like I was excited for Jasmine just in that it gave her the opportunity to like be on her own within this context and like maybe be freed up from whatever she felt as like a newlywed and what have you. From both your perspectives, how did Silas's absence this summer affect the group dynamic and what we're going to see play out?
I think it's just different.
Yeah.
I think it's, let's say if Preston had a housewarming, right? And I wasn't there. That doesn't make it less than, it just makes it different.
Right.
I'm just not there. So that gives, in this instance, Jasmine an opportunity to, spend more time with us. And I hope that Silas has peace of mind that we got her.
Hmm.
We're her friends, we're her support system as well. So yes, he's going to miss his wife. I think I can honestly say that. I don't like speaking for other people, but distance also makes the heart grow fonder. So hopefully, them being apart brings Jasmine closer to us in the house, and then them close to one another.
Hmm.
I think there's beauty in space, right? In those lulls.
Yeah. I was sharing for a bit that I also, in a way, not in many ways, I'm very empathetic to Jasmine. I can only imagine how much she struggled with being alone, for the
Yeah.
lack of a better word, right? Clearly, Silas was there supporting her virtually as much as he could. But, what we now know, obviously, to be a pregnancy and then an eventual birth and being newlyweds still and not having the best relationship with every person in the house to coming in the summertime, I can imagine it feeling very isolating. At the same time, I do always hope introspection kicks in, right? Because no one was intentionally excluded in a malicious way. Right. There were just different dynamics of friendships and some tension that didn't make sense to always include her in certain spaces. And again, at the same time, I can only imagine how she must have felt, right? Like not being there with Silas and how difficult it may be, right? To actually be getting closer to some of us while Silas is deployed, right? Like I also think those are just layered dynamics that I just couldn't, that I'm grateful that I'm not to be like honestly experiencing because I can only
Yeah.
imagine what that means for the psyche.
For sure, for sure. Nick, last year you caught some heat for not being completely upfront about like your relationship status and what was going on in your love life. And we see in this trailer for this season that like Amir says, or he says that you have a girlfriend, but sometimes your eyes wander. That's Amir's words. And there's some clip of you and Shanice dancing. What can we expect from that situation? I guess what did you learn from the situation from last summer that you took into filming for the second season?
A lot of questions, but
Yeah.
we can get into them all. So first and foremost, me going into this season, there's no surprises. I come into the house in a committed relationship. I leave the summer in a committed relationship. So
Good.
that the audience won't get another surprise, which is great for me and my peace of mind to point of psyche. In regards to what I learned last year, I also learned that I'm not perfect. I'm a man who makes mistakes, but I'm also a man who is accountable for those mistakes. And it's funny, I'm sitting next to this guy. So Preston was on Watch What Happens Live with Andy the latter part of the summer, and the same conversation came up. So instead of asking Preston's opinion, Andy turns to me and says, "Well, since the man is in the audience," and it gave me an opportunity to, apologize for my actions, to Tasia on national television, and I just so happen to have that platform. So that's good. In regards to what Amir was saying, well, we got to talk to Amir about that,
I think we do.
and this is something I don't share with a lot of people. We kind of get into it. And I think going into this season with no surprises, you kind of get into more of my personal business and personal life. I got into a baseball accident in 2006. I actually got hit in the right eye. And I lost most of the vision over here. So in regards to them wandering, I got to focus on what's in front of me. So I don't really have time for wandering eyes because I really only
just practically, you got it.
From a safety perspective.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually curious to see where he's coming from that perspective. And then also I can say comfortably that Shanice and I, we're friends, and that's all that we are. I know the trailer is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Of course it is, yeah.
And I actually thought it was pretty funny. So
sense of humor about it. We like to see it. Preston, you and Bria have a moment in the premiere. It's tense. You exchange some words.
No, we
but
didn't.
But you make up
great.
But you make up quickly. She comes out pretty quickly, and you guys hug each other. I think there are a couple. I think there might be a comment or two in that trailer again about each other that's made. What's behind sort of the ups and downs in that friendship? Because you're good friends, but there's to me, there's a lot of passion on both sides. And I'm curious what your perspective on that is.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the reality is that, you may see more arguments with me and Bria, just to be clear. Bria is like the little sister I never asked for. And so I think part of it is that the reality is I love Bria. Sometimes it gets tricky because it may not look like it all the time, right? But I love Bria. I think Bria is she packs a big punch, right? And sometimes it can be a lot. I'm also very self-aware of my reactions, my actions, how I speak to people. And sometimes I don't think Bria is. And I think coming from someone who is admittedly a decade older than her and is very self-aware, it's difficult for me sometimes, truly. And I've addressed this to Bria very directly. That gets very difficult for me, right? Because everything to me is not all about fun and drinking. Yeah, that's a great dynamic, and we should always play that out. And there's also a moment of what does respect look like? How do we speak to each other? How do you not center yourself in a comment that's obviously about other people? And I think for me, I struggle with her a little bit there. And at the same time, acknowledging that I really do think Bria is a lot of fun and really has a good spirit. And so I think those arguments are just, right, they're just big when they're big, but when we're good, we're good. And I think that's what I really can appreciate about our dynamic, as erratic as sometimes it is. To the point of our dinner table argument, the reality is, I will never blame like my father's death on what happened. And at the same time, I acknowledge that I would not have responded that way had I not been also dealing with life,
Right.
right? No matter how long you're filming, life still continues. And so I was coming into it with a lot, right? And that just made me go on emotional overdrive. In moments that I still, don't know if I think I was fully in the wrong, to be honest, but I just know I would have handled it differently.
Right.
Which is why I apologized right after, because I'm self-aware to know that I would not have addressed it this way with
Right.
Mary.
Right. And I also think it was great of her to have that introspection and be like, oh, fuck, like Preston is
Mm-hmm.
going through this. Let me come back down, kind of thing. So I
Right.
feel like you guys meet each other where you need to meet each other when you need to. But
Yeah. We don't
that's nice to
listen.
see.
Preston and Bria will always be a very erratic, dynamic duo in a way, and we will always get back to our friendship because we
Right.
truly do appreciate each other.
Great. So the other sort of thing that I feel like is kind of a mystery, I think, to viewers is sort of like what to expect from Amir's girlfriend, because the premiere has um, a comment that I feel like has some implications, or there's a question. I think it's Summer who asked, like, what do you guys think of Amir's
Mhm.
girlfriend? Or somebody asked that. And then there's, there's some drama teased in the trailer. What do you guys think of Amir's girlfriend, and what's sort of to come from her presence in the house?
You want to take it or what? Go ahead. I mean, so Natalie and and I mean, and Nick as well. We've hung out many a times, and I think she's really fun. Amir clearly loves her. I do think there were some moments that she got involved in stuff that I wouldn't have.
Okay.
That's just the reality,
Very
and
diplomatic.
I don't know if she made the best decisions when it came to certain things.
Okay.
Um, I'll end that there.
I've spent one-on-one time, or really it's like double dates with Amir, Natalie, myself, and Tasia. We went out 2 or 3 times in New York City. So in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, this is going to be
Mhm.
more of the same.
Mhm.
But again, when you add different dynamics and different
Yep.
people and different opinions,
Mhm.
things look a little different.
Right.
So I'll leave that Easter egg for you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because I feel like some people react to sort of this environment as sort of a pressure cooker, and some people are a little bit more natural in it, and that's an interesting.
Or you
I
could
don't know.
just build
Back
it to yourself.
Mhm.
That always works.
right, yeah. I'm just saying the reaction is, I feel like you never know how you're going to react to 10 people in a house,
No, that's
knowing
real.
there's cameras. It's like a
Yeah.
tough.
Well, so that's what's so funny because like I'm love me some social media and hate it, and it is always a dynamic that people always swear how they will be on a TV show,
Right,
and I'm like, you wish you have no idea how
None
you will be
whatsoever.
on a show.
right,
And it's different from summer to summer,
Yeah,
you know?
right, right.
Because what did you
Um,
say earlier? Life is gonna life, right?
life is
So you
gonna
have to
life.
add
Life
that
is gonna
on top
life.
of that.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. So to close it out, like you had that first experience that was a slightly different time of year, honestly, in filming. And there was 8 episodes and kind of came and went like very quickly. It was great 8 episodes, but now you have the second go round. And I'm just curious what each of you just took from that first experience, both from filming it, airing the whole 9 yards into the second go round where it's the height of the summer and we're maybe have a little bit more like breathing air. Like just what was it like for you guys to jump back in?
Go ahead, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Weather is definitely beautiful this time around. Mercurial still rained a little bit. It was cold one weird night, but we what we didn't do is we didn't complain about the weather.
Mhm.
We just got out and did what we needed to do, whatever the case may have been, whether we were having a house party or going out in the elements. But the weather was great, and for me, I know I was training for 2 marathons and that were coming up that fall, so I
Damn.
did a lot of running. I was up like it's funny they had an interview question. Someone asked me who's up in the morning first. It's either me, you, or Jasmine. I'm usually passing Jasmine. She's like making a cup of tea, and this one's on a conference call, and I'm putting on my running shoes, and headed out of the house to
It's a true summer
run a
house.
little
Yeah.
bit. But I think the weather was so good this time around, and then also this is what's scary when you don't think about the cameras and you just live.
Mhm.
You
Hmm.
know, you kind of just you're just there. It's like we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Admittedly,
We're
though,
here. We're sleeping in bunk beds. It's the
Oh, that part. But sleeping
but
on
they have
bed,
fun.
we did have fun.
I'm sure.
And then also, like, if my only complaint on a summer vacation is a bunk bed, is that really,
Very
like, the
valid.
house was
Very valid.
beautiful,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know?
Admittedly, though, I did complain about the weather one night, but I still went out and partied.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Cold as
We
hell.
I
pushed
complained
through.
for an hour straight
It was
before I
cold.
was but the reality is, I think to your question, I just wanted to just have a good time. So I admittedly, I was working a full-time job for another organization when we were filming last summer. And then this summer, thankfully I was months into my social media, or excuse me, my social impact consulting firm. And so that allowed me a little bit more flexibility to actually kind of do what I wanted to do. And so I wouldn't have to be on
Right.
10 conference calls a day. So that was really great to actually be able to be more in tune and interact with my friends this summer, which maybe I should have interacted less. Let me go back actually tonight.
Find the sweet spot in the middle, right?
No, but just to be yourself, just to not focus on the cameras and just to avoid perfection. Like perfection is truly the enemy of the good. And
Mm,
no matter how perfect you think you're going to come across, it doesn't matter, right? Like everyone has their moments, everyone has good days, everyone has bad days. You're going to cuss someone out, you're going to be generous, right? And I think so much of us came into it initially with trying to have this perfect cookie cutter image. And the real us came out. You can't avoid yourself,
yeah,
right? And so that's really how I came into this time again.
that's
You can
awesome.
avoid mirrors, but you can't avoid yourself.
Right.
That's for sure.
There we go.
I think that's profound. Like, let the perfectionism go.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Because that's not real. That's not realistic.
Not real.
And then also,
And the audience will see it.
right.
Yes.
And we don't want the audience to see that. We want the audience to see themselves in us.
Yeah. And I always think, I mean, just from watching the shows for so long, it's like when you sense somebody playing to the audience or trying to be even just slightly inauthentic,
Done.
we're not stupid, it's like you can see it. So I'm glad to see you guys embrace that aspect of it. Well, Nick and Preston, this has been so much fun.
Yes.
I'm excited for everybody to see this premiere again, and I just love the show, and I'm so excited for it to continue to grow and connect with more people. So congratulations on another great premiere, and I'll see you guys tonight.
See you. You've been a day one supporter, so thank you.
I try, you see the potential in these shows early on. I really think that, and you guys are an amazing cast. I really believe that. So it's been fun.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I want to gab.